My name is Zain. For a decade, I was a Qur'an teacher, a figure of reverence in my community. I stood before eager children, pouring my heart into every lesson, every verse. I believed I was nurturing their souls, guiding them on a righteous path. Yet deep within, a storm brewed, a gnawing feeling that something was amiss. My words echoed through the dusty classroom, but inside, I felt an emptiness that I could not articulate. Then came a moment that shattered my reality. An illness struck, and I teetered on the edge of existence, slipping into darkness. Just as death's chilling embrace surrounded me, I was pulled into a realm of blinding light. In that realm, I encountered a presence unlike any other, Jesus. He wasn't there to chastise or debate my beliefs. He was there to unveil a truth far more profound than I could ever conceive. As he looked into my soul, the vastness of my ignorance unraveled before me. I was shown the true nature of a spiritual war, a battle fought not with swords, but through deception and manipulation. Leaders cloaked in charisma orchestrated chaos while the masses remained blissfully unaware. The truth was not merely a concept, it was a weapon, one that held the power to awaken and liberate. I witnessed the web of lies that had ensnared not just my faith, but humanity as a whole. The urgency to awaken swelled within me. I realized my lifelong dedication to a singular narrative had become a prison for my spirit. What did it mean to be a teacher if I was blinded by tradition? I faced a choice that would alter the course of my life, to embrace a deeper truth or sink back into complacency. Now, as I share this tumultuous journey, I urge you to join me in unraveling the layers of deception that surround us. But before we dive deeper into this awakening, I want to know, where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Your voice matters in this unfolding revelation. And if you're ready to confront the truths that will challenge your perspective, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. Because what lies ahead is not just a story, it is a transformative revelation waiting to break the chains of misunderstanding. I had spent a decade of my life dedicated to teaching the Qur'an, revered in my community for my ability to convey the wisdom of our traditions. Each day I would sit among children in a dusty classroom at a madraça in Rabat, deeply entrenched in the orthodoxy of our faith. We memorized verses, discussed interpretations, and cultivated a pride in our Islamic heritage that felt unshakable. Yet beneath this facade of devotion, a silent disconnection gnawed at my spirit. I could articulate every word as it was handed down to us, but in my heart, I felt a void, a sense that my recitations were nothing more than hollow echoes of an ancient reality. Then came the moment that changed everything. A sudden illness struck me, one that left me fighting for breath, teetering on the brink of life and death. In those fragile moments when the boundaries of this world blurred and gave way to the next, I experienced a profound awakening. The darkness surrounded me first, thick and suffocating, but then it parted to reveal light, brilliant, all-encompassing, yet gentle. I felt a presence, a figure whose love was overwhelming. Then, there he was, Jesus. My heart raced as I realized this was more than a vision. It was a confrontation with truth, an invitation to see beyond the veil of deception that had obscured my understanding. In that divine moment, he unveiled a revelation about the battle raging in our world, a spiritual war far more intense than I had ever imagined. I saw leaders, their smiles concealing a hidden agenda, manipulating the very fabric of society. I was shown images of suffering, wars fueled by greed, division instigated by those in power, and a populace kept in darkness, their eyes closed to the lies that had been woven around them. Jesus spoke of awakening, urging me to understand the depth of the deception we lived in. The walls I had built around my faith began to crumble as truth flooded in, as indescribable as the light that surrounded him. He revealed how the elite played us like pieces on a chessboard, how technology served not just as a tool but as a weapon, one that would hold sway over our thoughts, actions, and beliefs. It was as if reality warped around me, showing me the interconnectedness of our spiritual battles and the urgency of choice. I realized with chilling clarity how the narratives we accept, shape our lives and our destinies. Each revelation was intertwined with the consequences that would soon play out in our world. As I returned to my body, gasping for breath in that hospital room, I carried a weight of responsibility that I had never felt before. A fire ignited within me, an undeniable urgency to speak, to reveal, to awaken those still trapped in their own disconnection. In my heart, I knew that my years of teaching the Qur'an had kept me ensnared in fear, in unchallenged belief. I was torn between my identity as a teacher and the new path I was beginning to glimpse. The echoes of Jesus' voice still resonated in my mind, urging me to reconcile my experiences with faith. What did it mean to be devout, to uphold tradition while embracing a profound, unsettling truth? The tension built within me, each revelation pulling me deeper into a dilemma I could no longer ignore. I felt the world pressing in around me, its chaos, its clamor for order, its cries for justice. The walls of my classroom, once a sanctuary of knowledge, began to feel like a prison for my awakened spirit. My allegiance began to shift, no longer to a rigid doctrine, but to an understanding that transcended borders, religions, and ideologies. The realization that there was a greater calling waiting for me beyond the confines of my life overshadowed my fear of rejection. In the quiet space of contemplation, I sat alone, grappling with the enormity of my experience, balancing on the precipice of faith and doubt. Each passing moment deepened the conflict within. I had glimpsed the truth, felt the pulse of divine purpose, and now I was faced with a choice that demanded action. The question loomed: would I risk everything for a revelation that held the promise of an awakening? Or would I remain a passive participant in a spiritual war that threatened the very fabric of humanity? My heart raced as the shadows of doubt encroached once more. Unanswered, unresolved, a new chapter approached. One where the stakes were higher than I could ever have imagined, and the truth waited, just beyond my reach. As I walked through the bustling corridors of the university library, the scent of old paper mingled with the weight of knowledge. It was a night like any other, but something drew me toward a small, tucked-away corner where a Bible sat, dusty and overlooked. Curiosity tugged at me, and guilt gnawed at my conscience. In my role as a Qur'an teacher, the very idea of holding that book felt like an act of betrayal. But I took it home, desperate to understand the enemy I had been taught to dismiss. That night, sleep eluded me. My mind raced, tangled with the threads of faith and doubt. Driven by an impulse I couldn't quite name, I opened the Bible to John 8:32. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. The word freedom reverberated through my mind, crashing against the walls of my rigid beliefs. My entire religious life had revolved around submission and fear, an intricate dance where questioning was forbidden. A chilling thought pierced through my soul. What if I'm spiritually imprisoned? The weight of that question hung like a shadow over my heart as I knelt in prayer, desperate for clarity, yet terrified of the revelations lurking in the dark. Days passed, and I found myself wrestling with an internal conflict that grew sharper with each passing moment. My lectures, once fueled by certainty, now felt like hollow echoes of a faith that couldn't withstand scrutiny. I could no longer ignore the disconnect between what I taught and the longing I felt within. The stark truth was dawning on me, and with it came a deep sense of longing for connection. A connection I was beginning to suspect came from something far greater than the confines of my tradition. Then, one fateful evening, an accident shattered my reality. I was driving home, the world outside my window fading into a blur, when suddenly, a collision. Darkness enveloped me and I slipped into an abyss. In that suffocating stillness, something miraculous began. I was lifted into a realm of pure light, a radiance that transcended words and understanding. And there, standing before me, was Jesus. His countenance was filled with love and urgency, his eyes reflecting the depths of the world's suffering and the hidden agendas of those in power. I felt the weight of centuries of deception lift off my soul as he spoke to me, revealing the spiritual war raging behind the veil of reality. a war fought over our hearts and minds. As he shared profound truths, the illusion of separation between nations, ideologies, and faiths unraveled before my eyes. I saw leaders, those whom we are taught to trust, bowing to elite powers that manipulate faith and hope. Their deception cloaked the true battle, one of spiritual awakening against the chains of ignorance. I felt the urgency in his voice, as warnings reverberated in my spirit. We are caught in a deluge of conflict that extends beyond borders, reflecting the fractures in society and the growing divisions among us. The implications were staggering, a call to awaken not just for ourselves, but for the generations that would follow us. The visions continued to unfold, revealing the path of technology and progress that we tread, not as saviors of humanity, but as players in a dangerous game, a game that could lead us to destruction. I watched, horrified, as the consequences of our choices materialized. A future where spiritual truths are supplanted by material gain, where conflicts arise not only from geographical divides, but from the deep-seated ideologies that shape our identities. The realization was both a burden and a blessing. I was being summoned into a new realm of understanding, where every decision mattered, demanding urgency and action. The echo of Jesus' call to awaken became my truth, driving me to confront not only the heart of my own faith, but the very world around us, igniting a relentless hunger for understanding that refused to be extinguished. I felt the scorching sun on my face, the heat wavering in the air, blurring the horizon around me. I was just a simple truck driver, tasked with delivering goods across this vast desert. My life had revolved around the hum of the engine and the vast stretches of asphalt, often punctuated by fleeting moments of reflection. It was just another day, another load to drop off. But as I pulled over to rest, fatigue enveloped me like a thick, suffocating blanket. The heat overwhelmed my senses, and before I knew it, I was collapsing into the sand. In that instant, I slipped into a world devoid of time and space. The boundaries of my earthly life faded, and I entered a realm that felt both foreign and achingly familiar. I found myself in a grand courtroom, shadowed figures surrounding me. The towering books of the Qur'an loomed above like monoliths, oppressive yet eerily comforting. Suddenly, a light broke through the darkness. Jesus appeared before me, radiating love and truth, enveloping me in warmth. His words pierced the silence. "You've memorized words, but never knew me." I trembled, feeling every ounce of belief I had built up over the years collapse around me. With a single proclamation, "I am the truth," the heavy books began to fall, scattering around me like autumn leaves in a storm. In that moment, I glimpsed the revelation I had long sought yet feared to confront, a truth that shattered my understanding of the world. Jesus' voice became a guiding thread, weaving through the fabric of my reality, pulling me towards a more profound understanding of my existence. He unveiled a spiritual war raging beneath our everyday lives, a battle fought not with weapons but with deception and manipulation. I could see the tangled web, the leaders who feigned righteousness but reveled in their hidden agendas. Visions swirled before my eyes, revealing the true nature of society. Racked by division and conflict, I witnessed wars erupting, not as mere confrontations between nations, but as orchestrated steps in a grand design aimed at suppressing the truth. The elite, cloaked behind facades of governance and authority, thrived on chaos, fueling unrest with propaganda. Each explosion reverberated in my chest, a stark reminder of the cost of ignorance. My heart raced as I realized how deeply entrenched the manipulation ran, how technology, supposed to connect us, served as a means to bind us further, ensnaring souls in distractions that led away from truth. With every revelation, my spirit cried out for clarity amidst the clutter of deceit. I could now perceive how people's struggles were harnessed by those who held power, their cries drowned in a cacophony of lies. The deeper I delved, the more I felt the urgency of my awakening. Jesus urged me to reclaim my purpose, to stand in the truth that could cut through the darkness and liberate not only myself, but those ensnared by falsehoods. I felt the weight of my past, of the years spent traversing the path of blind faith, and it pressed against me as a heavy fog. As I began to awaken from this near-death experience, the urgency of my revelations lingered, echoing in the chambers of my mind. The call of Jesus was relentless, pulling me to a precipice that demanded I leap into a new understanding, a new life illuminated by his truth. I could no longer remain in the comfort of ignorance. I had crossed into a realm where the stakes were immeasurable. Every facet of my existence demanded reevaluation. Every belief I had clung to inspected under the glaring light of that encounter. What awaited me stood just out of reach, the tension of transformation electrifying the air around me. The world beyond shifted under the influence of hidden powers, and I knew my journey was only just beginning, an awakening sprawling before me like the endless stretches of desert that I once navigated without thought. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon when my life took an unexpected turn. A minor car accident, just a bump really, left me shaken but seemingly fine. I brushed it off, telling myself that I was lucky, that I would move on with my day as if nothing had happened. But what I didn't know was that this seemingly mundane event would open the door to a realm of revelation and spiritual awakening that would shatter the very foundations of my beliefs. Within hours, strange sensations crept over me. A weight on my chest, shadows flickering at the edges of my vision. Then, darkness enveloped me. I recall gasping for air, the world twisting into a blur before my eyes. As I slipped into unconsciousness, the last thing I remember was a deafening silence, followed by a sudden out-of-body experience. I found myself standing in a vast void, surrounded by swirling mists of brilliant white and deep, desolate black. The air was thick with an energy I could hardly fathom. I felt lightness intermingled with an overwhelming sense of dread. Suddenly, I was pulled into a brilliant light, not to be confused with the blinding glare of the sun. This was different. This light held a presence, a depth I had never encountered. And then, there he was, Jesus, standing before me, radiating a warmth that cut through the anxieties of my life. His eyes were pools of compassion, reflecting not just my deepest fears, but also the potential I had yet to grasp. In that moment, the chaotic thoughts swirling in my mind quieted. He spoke softly, yet his words reverberated through my very being. "You've lived in the comfort of ignorance," he said, his voice a gentle yet resolute whisper. "The world is at war, not just in the physical realm, but within the hearts of men, fought through spirits and deceptions birthed by the elite." His presence filled me with a profound understanding of how this hidden agenda had clouded my vision, stalling a generation awakening to spiritual truth. As his words sank in, visions began unfolding before me, images of wars sparked by division, the manipulation of truth manipulated by leaders cloaked in false promises. I witnessed how skewed narratives ran rampant, feeding into the machines of despair, while technology, the very tool we had hoped would unite us, was reined in as a weapon. How blind humanity had become. I was shown clips of the past and fragments of the future, a mosaic of suffering but also of hope. I felt the ache of interconnectedness, the urgency to recognize that this spiritual war was real and that it needed warriors equipped with the truth. I saw it all, the violence erupting over borders, the injustices rendered invisible by a system whose very foundation had been built on deceit. Each moment of suffering connected to another. It was as if I had been trapped in a darkened room, blindfolded and bound. And with every revelation I could feel those bindings begin to disintegrate. "The truth shall awaken you," he declared, with an intensity that both frightened and excited me. But with this knowledge came an even heavier burden. I could not sit back and let others remain in that darkness, unaware of the cosmic struggle around them. In that sacred exchange, I felt the fire of transformation igniting within me, the inkling of a mission taking root in my heart. I realized I was being given not just a near-death experience, but an awakening calculated to jolt me from the slumber of complacency. I looked into Jesus' eyes, and every fear rose to the surface. the fear of rejection, of judgment, of being ostracized for daring to speak of these truths. But I knew this was the ultimatum: either embrace the light and spread the truth, or remain bound in an illusion that slowly poisons the very essence of our humanity. With those thoughts ringing like a bell in my consciousness, the vision began to fade, and I felt myself being pulled back, not ready to relinquish this newfound knowledge, yet knowing my journey on this earthly plane was far from over. There was much yet to uncover, much to prepare for. My name is David, and I spent years as a truck driver, a simple life with simple routines. Long stretches of highway became my church, the hum of tires on asphalt my prayer. But one late night, a sudden collision changed everything. Time was suspended. I felt my spirit detach, rising above the wreckage. In that ethereal state, I was enveloped in light, and there in the brilliance stood Jesus, radiating compassion. His presence filled me with a profound sense of peace, yet it also ignited a sense of urgency. He spoke without words, his thoughts merging with mine, revealing truths I had never considered. As we moved beyond the veil of existence, I was shown visions, a mosaic of humanity entwined in conflict, destructive wars, deep societal divides, and a relentless manipulation by those in power flashed before me. There, in stark clarity, I saw the hands of the elite pulling strings, orchestrating chaos disguised as order. They sow division to distract from the truth, he told me. A spiritual war rages unseen, and too many remain blissfully unaware. Each image etched itself into my mind, a call to awaken from the slumber of complacency. The deceptive nature of our world unfurled like a map, laying bare the sinister agendas behind the scenes. In this state of heightened awareness, I felt a flood of emotions. Anger, sorrow, desperation. I witnessed leaders proclaiming peace, while shaking hands behind closed doors, plotting the next move in their game. The cries of the oppressed echoed around me, a symphony of lament reaching into my very soul. They do not know they are pawns, Jesus revealed. You must share what you have seen. I struggled to comprehend the weight of his message. Could I really be a voice amidst such deception? The thought left me shivering, yet I felt steadied by his unwavering gaze. As I drifted between these planes of consciousness, I glimpsed technological advancements, twisting into instruments of control rather than enlightenment. I saw devices that promised connection, yet tethered us further into isolation, nurturing division rather than unity. Jesus' light dimmed momentarily, an ominous shadow passing over. This is not just a moment in time, but a pivotal junction for humanity, he explained. There are those caught in the illusion of power, blind to the spiritual war unfolding. Your purpose, as mundane as it seems, is interwoven into the very fabric of this battle. A charge surged through me, a sense of purpose awakening within the depths of my being. Just as quickly as I had been lifted into this dazzling realm of understanding, a jolt pulled me back. I gasped for breath, lying in the remains of my truck, sirens wailing in the distance. Yet the clarity of my encounter with Jesus, the urgent revelations, were imprinted on my spirit. I was reborn, transformed by an experience that transcended reality. In the days that followed, every interaction felt charged with meaning, the mundane now glimmering with potential for change. As I moved through my world, now starkly aware of the deceptions lurking beneath, I felt the weight of Jesus' call pressing upon me. The world continued to spin, but I was no longer just a spectator. I had glimpsed the greater purpose in the ebb and flow of life, and I knew I couldn't remain silent. I began to speak to friends and family about the truths unveiled during my near-death experience. Yet, the tension built within me. Every conversation felt like a drop in an ocean of disbelief. Voices around me clung to their comforts, resisting the urgency I felt pulsing in my veins. With every attempt to shed light on the deception I had witnessed, I faced skepticism, even hostility. How could I convey the magnitude of what Jesus revealed? How could I expose the hidden agenda and awaken souls adrift in ignorance? Every day trapped in this tug of war between belief and truth fueled my spirit. Too many souls still bound in chains of deception. My heart ignited with a fervor to break through the illusion, to guide others toward awakening before it was too late. The cries of the world resonated within me, echoing the urgency with which I was compelled to intervene. With each flicker of doubt, I returned to that moment of illumination, firm in the tidal wave of revelation washing over me. But as I prepared to embrace this new path, shadows loomed, whispering uncertainties. What would become of me in a world unprepared for the truth I bore? Now that you've journeyed through my story, I can't help but wonder, what is your understanding of your role in this intricate tapestry of existence? Did you ever sense that you're part of something far greater, a cosmic battle for truth playing out right before your eyes? There's an urgency thrumming within each of us, calling for our attention to the deceptions that seek to ensnare our spirits. I stood at the threshold of two worlds. One, built upon familiar traditions that felt restrictive, and another bursting with the promise of profound awakening. It wasn't just about me, it's about all of us. We are living in a time that demands we raise our voices to shake off the chains of complacency. The divine truth is waiting for us to seize it, unraveling the falsehoods that keep us distracted. Are we willing to embody that truth, to be warriors of awakening, even when faced with the daunting specter of skepticism? Now, I want to hear from you. Have you encountered moments of clarity that challenged your long-held beliefs? Have you felt that inexplicable pull toward a deeper understanding of the truth? Share your experience with me in the comments below. Your voice could be the lighthouse guiding others through their dark nights. Before we move on to the next chapter of this sacred journey together, I urge you to subscribe to Truth from Beyond and activate the notification bell. Each story we uncover will bring us closer to the heart of the spiritual awakening, and trust me, what lies ahead is even more transformative, waiting just beyond the horizon. As you carry these thoughts with you, remember, this is just the beginning. I'm Zain, and I appreciate your companionship on this path of discovery. Let's awaken together, igniting the light in a world so desperately in need of it.